Hey guys, this is Duranasaur, and I'm coming with another dungeon speedrun analysis commentary video. So far, I have done live strat, I've done dead strat, and today I'm going to do full strat. So I put on a competition that was a full strat competition. We had a prize pool of $500. We had some great sponsors. It was a very fun, very exciting event. And because we got so many different people involved in it, we got to see a few different strategies. So today is actually going to be a special video, and I'm going to go over the two fastest runs from that event, and they are very different. If you want to just skip straight to those runs, I will have the timestamps below. The first one I'm going to do is the fastest run of that tournament, and it's currently the fastest run of a full Stratholme, I think, in the world. The second one was the second fastest run in that tournament, I think the second fastest run in the world, but it's a lot different, and it's very, very exciting. And without giving it away, I will say that everyone who always thought that stealth runs were going to be a thing in these competitions, you're finally vindicated with this second run. So again, we have two runs in this video. I'm going to go through them back to back. This first one is a run by Zoo, which is a fairly competitive, I think one of the best horde speedrunning guilds in the world. And so I was very happy to have them compete, and we will jump straight into their run. So to kick this off, this is from Rolada's point of view. They are loading in, they're getting their buffs up. A big thing to note, once they get in here and you start looking at their buffs, they have Camp T buffs, right? Camp Taurajo buffs are horde-only buffs. There's a speed buff, and there's Razor Hide. They also have Paladin buffs. So they took the time to mind control Paladin and get Kings and Might, and I think those might be the only two that they have. So you'll see they've got about 3.5 minutes left on those. They are jumping straight into this run. They're not going to try to skip any of these packs. They're going like full board into all three of these packs leading over to the dead side gate. One of the things you're going to see here is they're going to start dropping target dummies right off the bat. So one of the things that we noticed throughout this competition that we think made a big difference was the groups that were dropping target dummies kind of on cooldown throughout their runs. Like they seem to have an easier time. They also seem to be pulling larger packs throughout as they go. So one thing here too that you'll notice is instead of going over to the Baroness first, these guys are opting to go to Nerubicon. So this is a different strategy. This is a different route than what we saw in the undead speedruns that I reviewed. So this is something that I think is maybe they're either going a little bit against the grain, or they've done the math. They realize that it's not any faster to go through that gate, like having that little timed event where you're stuck in the gate and you're having to kill the rats or the cockroaches or whatever it may be. Maybe that's not worth it. So they're going to do this. They're going to send one of their warriors into the ziggurat. Again, this is a 4 warrior, 1 shaman comp. So classic Cleave. In the past, we haven't seen these actually do all that well, but these guys, being who they are, they took the Cleave strat, I think, and they added in a little bit more thought and a little bit more practice and a little bit more preparation, and they make this work. So they're coming through here. They are skipping what packs they can, but they're also just grabbing everything and rounding it up and using that melee cleave to just slice it all down. They're going to grab the last couple mobs here before pulling the Baroness, and it gives their 4th warrior a chance to catch up from that ziggurat. You'll see they're kind of looking around, waiting for them to come. There they are, 4th one's here. So we had talked about before, like a lot of groups, when they do just an undead strat speedrun, they pop wreck on this boss. These guys don't need to do that. She is dead so fast. You can see on his bars, he still has recklessness. They had popped Death Wish on the first boss, so they didn't even need any cooldowns for that first one. Grabbing a bunch more mobs here. You'll see dropping holy waters on these, basically dropping holy water throughout this run on cooldown while they are on dead side. They also, again, you'll see throughout the run, they drop target dummies to help just alleviate the damage done to their warriors here and help the shaman with their healing. The shaman's mana is totally fine though. They're just pumping chain heals and just trying to keep up and dropping totems as necessary. You'll see the shamans sort of leapfrog, like the warriors will go out ahead, they'll grab mobs, they'll pull them back, and that allows the shaman to get out ahead of them to drop totems for them to then kind of do the same thing. So it's this leapfrog of grabbing everything out ahead, pulling it a little bit back to the totems, killing it, and allowing the shaman to then run forward, drop new totems, and they do that throughout the run. So they grabbed all those mobs, pulled them up here, LOS them on top, killed Maleki with all those mobs, sent one warrior in, and now they are continuing the cleave all the way through Deadside. Right now, they're at 3.5 minutes in. Spoiler alert, this is also the fastest undead run ever. It was not submitted on the leaderboards as being a solo undead run, which is why when I did that review, I just took the best one from that leaderboard. This was part of a full strat competition, so I just sort of left it as just being full strat. But this is going to end up being the fastest undead run I've ever seen. I think that anyone has ever seen in the world. Pretty insane. You'll see here they're grabbing, this is sort of the scariest part in the whole run, I think, for these guys. They ended up getting a lot of different caster mobs, and it's one of the only times where the shaman's mana gets pretty low and everyone's health sort of like takes a bit of a dive. But they go from that straight into these A-bombs, and they pull a lot of these. So this is 6 of them right off the bat. Again, dropping target dummies, dropping holy waters, like just using a bunch of tools that I think the average person may not even think about using, especially the target dummies in these runs. But it's going to make a huge difference in the long term if you have 5 people that are engineering and they're able to drop those every time that you run into one of these bigger pulls. So they're going to clean the rest of these up. Once these are all down, of course, Ramstein normally spawns. You'll see as they get to the last one, they're going to start dragging them back towards that door. And that's to ensure that they're able to run inside before Ramstein comes out, so that they are inside the ziggurat, so that they're not stuck outside waiting for the doors to open. So just waiting here, going to rushing in. Ramstein just absolutely gets demolished here. And then they have the skeleton guards spawn. The door to Baron actually does not open until all these blackguard sentries are killed. So you'll see they run down here to the door, but they still have to get all those guards down. Coming into Baron, again, not popping cooldowns yet. They are saving that wreck for later. We will see when they decide to use it. They're starting to get the little skelly ads, so of course when you kill Ramstein, all these little ads come out. They do have to deal with these once they come back outside. Using holy waters, using everything else just to get these down as quick as possible, because you'll see that they're trying to swap out trinkets, they're trying to swap out boots. They're getting that nifty stopwatch on, they're getting goblin rocket boots on. Some of them are popping on their Skull of Impending Doom. That was a 5:50 undead strat. 5 minutes and 50 seconds undead strat. So pretty insane what they were able to do there. On the way back here, they do have a couple mishaps. They accidentally pop one of the crates, and then they pull an extra group here. So just extra time added to their run, which, could have made a difference had things gone a bit better for one of the other groups, but they handle it just fine. Continue to pop their different speeds. You'll see again, Skull of Impending Doom right there. You're going to see Goblin Rocket Boots right here. But unfortunately, it does break. It does fail. But they're just doing everything they can to rush back through Deadside so that they can get back over to the live side and really get that run going. At this point, about 7 minutes and 15 seconds in. So if you compare this to Undead Strat runs, they are still, even though they are running to live side, they're still on a faster. At this point, they have not even hit the time that the fastest solo Undead Strat run hit. So these guys are moving at an alarming pace. They've lost their pally buffs at this point. They lost the Camp T speed buff, but they do still have Razor Hide. They do still have all their other buffs and consumes running. Just clearing up the few caster mobs that are in the back here. it's going to be important because the frost bolts are just going to slow individual members. So if you're able to have someone sort of run out ahead with aggro and LOS, and then have someone like this warrior in the back just like cleaving them up as you go, it's going to make a difference. More holy water is getting used here, more target dummies getting used for these larger packs. Anything they can do to deal a lot of damage and also negate as much damage as possible. You'll see here getting the Gnomish cloaking device on as they get prepped and ready. Having to drop combat and make sure that everyone's out of combat so that they can all get those trinkets on and ready to go. This is sort of a more conventional strategy through here. We saw it with the live strat runs there. You know, you can pull multiple of these groups at the same time if that helps you, but for the most part, we see groups just sort of like go through these mobs one group at a time, get them down, and then as they get to live side, that's when things are going to get a bit more interesting. You'll see some target dummies on the ground right there. And then focusing down and making sure all these mobs die. The reason being that they are going to pop some invis trinkets here. So they popped swift boots. So that was one thing that I missed a little bit earlier. They're also using swift boots, which is it's a leatherworking item. So they used the rocket boots earlier, swift boots here with that Gnomish cloaking device. Now that they are inside, they are going to pop another invis pot. So at this point, if you remember the live strat run, they have used the 2 different invis options. So this means that once they get through here up to the Cannon Master's door, they're out of invis options. And this is when things are going to get interesting. So they're going to move through this door here, and as they run through here, you're going to see the warriors are taking turns popping fears, and that shaman is putting down earthbind totems. So they are just completely ignoring all of these mobs, just pumping through here. I think you're going to see the last fear go out here in a second. So now they're spending everything. They popped wreck. They pop every single cooldown they have. All those mobs are starting to pour in. The shaman is doing his absolute best to keep them up for as long as possible. And then they're just blasting Balnazar down. They get him down, and that's when the run is over. They have officially killed him. They stop the timer. And then everyone except
it doesn't even matter, though.
Their Petried Torn Warrior
36. Wow.
hits the ground.
Whoa!
So that is the fastest full strat run. That was the only group that was able to, well, that was the only group that did that exact strategy. They did something different than what we saw undead groups do in the past. They did something different than what we saw in the live strat runs. It ended up being, again, the fastest full strat run in the world. I think that there were areas where they could have even improved on it. They pulled some extra packs. They had a couple random things go wrong. There's a chance that they could have gotten a sub 10-minute run if they had everything go perfectly for them. So incredible run, super exciting, and I think it goes to show people are able to do some amazing things with all of these speed runs, with the different tools that they have, with the different gear that they have. So that first run, again, was the fastest full strat run that I have seen, that I think exists in the world in Classic WoW to date. Incredible. They won the competition. This second run that I'm about to jump into, while it didn't win the competition, it was very much a crowd favorite. And it's something that I still talk about with people to this day, because it's something that I think is just truly incredible. So that's why I wanted to have it here. That's why I kind of wanted to do this double feature, this longer video, because while that first run is incredible due to its record-breaking status, this one showcases something very unique and very exciting. So I wanted to jump straight into this next one. This run is performed by Goosey, so another top-end speedrunning guild. You'll kind of see here there's a picture-in-picture going on. The mainstream that you see is the warrior. This is a 3 warrior rogue paladin crew. The skull that you see going on, and also the perspective in the bottom left, that is the rogue's perspective. They are also doing something unique here. They're going straight to live side. So every single other run in this competition and every full strat run that I've ever seen has always opted to go dead side first. So this will come into play, obviously, as we go. But they are heading over to live side. They had the rogue run out ahead and grab a bunch of these mobs and Petri, just to get them all grouped up. Now you have these DPS warriors and this paladin coming in after the fact to help kill everything, and they're going to continue pushing through this live side. Again, you have that rogue's perspective down in the bottom left. I know that the quality isn't great, so I will try to do my best to describe what is going on as they run through here. Killing the Unforgiven, again, the full 5-man crew still together at this point. Still pushing through live side. They're sort of doing, I mean, they are moving through these groups very quickly. They're bringing them together, grouping them up as best they can as they move through here. You can see they're grabbing and pulling them into next groups as best they can. They are going to finish these off and then do a little bit of a skip here just to avoid, having to kill as many mobs as other groups. Picking up this A-bomb, kind of a lucky pathing there that he's not, up farther ahead or slowing them down in any way. But then hugging the right wall here, coming through, getting this last undead pack. And what you'll see here is once this last undead pack goes down, this is when things get interesting. So this warrior popping a speed. I believe that was the nifty... Well, no, this is Goblin Rocket Boots that he's popping here. Him, the other 2 warriors, and the paladin are now running back towards dead side, while you'll see in the bottom left that rogue is continuing on through live side. So now they're heading back to dead side. This main perspective is going to be from the 4-man crew, 3 warriors, paladin. And that bottom left, you'll see that rogue is moving through the courtyard right now and up to the door. So they're just stealthing past everything, getting to the door, opening the door, not having to deal with any of those mobs in the courtyard, while his counterparts are moving straight to the Nerubian boss. And just casually 4-manning this. They don't actually have all the world buffs that the other crew had. So Zoo was just buffed out the nines, right? They had every world buff. They had Camp T buffs. They had Paladin buffs. This group, not as many world buffs. That Rogue is fully world buffed with basically everything. But this Warrior perspective, you'll see he's missing a few. Now that Rogue, again, stealthing through, getting to the Cannon Master's door, and this is when things sort of get interesting with that Rogue. It's hard to tell, but what he's looking at is the pack that's by that interior door. So the only way that he can get that interior door open is by coming out of stealth. And for a single Rogue, that is an incredibly dangerous thing, and we're gonna see eventually what they do in order to get that door open and continue stealthing through the rest of this dungeon. So you'll see he's prepping. He's getting poisons reapplied right now. He's just, while his counterparts are pushing as fast as they can through on dead side, this rogue is being incredibly deliberate with every single thing that they do. So there is this timer, probably. I'm sure that they're all in voice. I'm sure that the undead crew are letting that rogue know exactly where they are, giving him cues as to when he needs to be getting through these different obstacles. But right now, he's sitting and waiting. I believe that he's waiting for this patrol to come through here, just because I'm sure it affects his ability to vanish and get back out of combat on the correct side of the door once he does his fancy maneuver here. You'll also see On this undead side, they're popping holy water. They are also popping target dummies. Like, this is another crew that's taking full advantage of everything that they can, engineering everything. So that rogue, okay, so there you go. The patrol is there. They are like padding to the door and then back. He opens with a sap. He gets a slumber sand off. He blinds the last one, and then he drops a target dummy. So all four of the mobs are currently CC'd by one method or another. As soon as he can, he switches to the door, gets inside, has to wait for that target dummy to die, and then once it dies, he is able to vanish and drop combat. So if he had just dropped a target dummy, they would have killed the target dummy and swapped to him before he was able to get the door open. So he had to execute those things, all four of those different maneuvers, before he died or before he took too much damage, in order to get that door open, get inside, and vanish so that he could continue his stealth run through this live side. So he's continuing now. He is in sort of the last home stretch. And at this point, again, he has to wait for more patrols. He comes out of stealth to pop some extra consumables. One thing that he pops here that you may not see is a Sheen of Zanza. So we believe, I think during the run we even talked about this, it might negate the sleep that the final boss puts on you. So when the boss transforms from human to that demon, we're pretty sure that's what it does. It doesn't necessarily reflect it onto the boss, but it does at least keep the rogue from getting slept. If that's a little bit of a teaser to what we're going to see coming up here. So accidentally has a mob almost see him, almost pull him out of stealth, throwing down a distract, and now moving through this last hallway while his counterparts are clearing the final ziggurat. So they are pushing through. Last ziggurat is down. At this point, it's about them getting to that final area, killing the A-bombs, and killing Ramstein, getting inside, killing Baron. So they're doing their best to skip as much trash as possible, being that they are a four-man crew. If they can successfully skip a lot of trash, that is going to help them save time. They do opt to go left near the fountain here. So this is, again, after that final ziggurat, and you come into this sort of courtyard area. They are going left here. They must have found that this is faster than going through that gate by the Nerubian boss, even though they are sort of killing a lot of the same mobs. So again, they're being very careful, very precise, even marking mobs to help them see like which mobs they want to be able to completely avoid, and then threading the needle here as they charge through. Meanwhile, that rogue sitting there, we can see out of stealth, we believe waiting for cooldowns to come up. So he had to pop Vanish, he had to pop a couple other things just to stay alive, as well as to CC to get to this point. So probably waiting for different cooldowns, maybe even pre-popping different potions at this point, and having to wait for that potion cooldown. But we can see still waiting there, prepping, just waiting for the correct time to engage with this boss. As his crew is moving into this final section of UD Strat, moving on to the A-bombs here. Probably not going to see them pulling as many A-bombs as we saw Zoo pull. Zoo was pulling, groups of 5 or 6 at a time. They're currently working on a group of 4. And you'll see now the rogue back into stealth. He's getting into position to pull Balnazar here. And you have to also remember he's on a 12-second delay. So everything that he's doing that we see in the stream, he's actually 12 seconds further ahead time-wise than what we're seeing happen with his counterparts here on the undead side. So when you're thinking about how the two groups are lining up, we'll see here at the end which side actually went faster, whether the rogue was able to go faster through live side solo, even having to wait for the different patrols and cooldowns, or if the dead side was able to push through with a 4-man crew. So you'll see that rogue throwing out a distract, moving up here, engaging with the boss, but pickpocketing him first just to see what he's got. But then he's opening on the boss here, saving evasion during this humanoid phase, pumping damage, drops a target dummy just to help negate any sort of incoming damage, popping other cooldowns just to push him to that that phase where he turns into the demon, the rogue still eats the knockdown, but is able to get out of the knockdown and then pop evasion, pop more cooldowns, blade flurry, slice and dice, everything, getting it up. They did eat a crit right off the bat, so they got chunked down. But then once they got evasion up, their DPS took over, and you'll see they're very much soloing Balnazar at this point, with basically no issue at all until they get down to this low point and Balnazar hits them with a fear, which almost sends them out the door into mobs that they had skipped. Luckily, the fear breaks and they're able to move back in and finish Balnazar off. Meanwhile, the undead counterpart side is here. They're on Baron Rivendare, so very close between the two different sides. This 4-man crew making in here sub 20%, and they kill it. And watching this live, it was almost heartbreaking to look at the timer, because even though they did this incredibly impressive run with this rogue soloing all the way through the cathedral, soloing the final boss, while their 4-man party moved through undead side and cleared all of undead side, unfortunately, they did come up short. They ended up getting beat by Zoo's full world buff, full horde Zug strategy by around 20 seconds. I don't know. My hat is off to these guys because they did something completely unique. It honestly could be that when you start looking at like the buffs, for instance, on this warrior, I'm not sure how well buffed the other warriors and the paladin were, but it could be that if this undead side had been able to go about 20 seconds faster, if the rogue had done everything they had done, and that undead side had been able to speed up, they might have been able to clinch this with the impressive run that they did. All in all, I think this run is one of the coolest things that I have seen in any vanilla dungeon speedrun. So many people had said, oh, these speedruns are just going to be dominated by rogues and druids doing stealth runs, but we had not seen anything like that yet. And I think even what happened here with this rogue going through and soloing, Balnazar at the end of this full strat run, I think that that's a bit more impressive than a full 5-man stealth group going through. This just gets me excited about the future of dungeon speedrunning, both in Classic, which is coming to an end, but also in TBC. This is going to be where I plug that we are doing a lot with TBC. DungeonCleave.com is a project that I'm working on with a bunch of very dedicated individuals. I'll put a link to that in the description below. And we plan on making heroic dungeon speedrunning just a regular part, a regular competitive aspect of playing TBC. So please check that out. Again, that'll be in the description below. It's going to be, I think, something that keeps people excited about doing heroics. Even though they're wanting to do them every day, it's an extra reason to do them every day, and it's a reason to push performance in them every day. Again, that's dungeoncleave.com. So come check it out. Check out the website, see what we have going. There's also a link to our Discord and our community there. We do want to be very community focused in regards to the rules for both the regular leaderboard runs and for competitions like this one that we did. I'll also put a link to this whole competition. I hosted this from scratch. We were able to get some sponsors and put together a nice prize pool. And I think we had 7 or 8 teams compete. And we had kind of a variety of strategies. There were a lot of teams that just went, for a Zug strategy. And then we had teams like this one that did super cool things that I didn't even expect a team would try to do. So please check out all those things. If you have any suggestions on, I guess, like how we should run things in TBC or ideas for what we could do in the future, feel free to leave those either in the comments or come chat with us in the community. I do have a couple more of these coming up. I do want to do a Dire Maul West, which is another competition that we held. And then just this past weekend, I held the final Classic Dungeon Speed competition of Vanilla, and it was for a lower Blackrock Spire. It went super well. It was super exciting. We had some very top tier guilds competing, and we had a wide variety of strategies used. Even though there weren't as many teams participating, every single one of them did something different. It was incredibly exciting to watch. I don't know if the winning team necessarily showcased the best strategy. I think that we actually saw some strategies that could have been faster fail, but that just means that it's all the more exciting. It also means that there might be a future here with vanilla dungeon speedrunning. So I hope that's the case if we get a classic vanilla 2 or something along those lines. So again, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys. If you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and as always, happy hunting. See ya.